I want to ask a question that I asked also the Attorney General candidates. I spoke earlier this week with Laura Winterbottom's father. Laura Winterbottom was a murder victim in Burlington. And he told me that there are, every year at Fletcher Allen Healthcare, at least 130 cases of sexual assault that are investigated. What would each of you do as Lieutenant Governor to decrease the amount of violence against women in this state? Let me start with you, Ms. Gekas.
So violence against women, sexual assault, these are issues that I've spent a lot of time working on. It started for me when I was in college. I counseled victims of domestic violence and rape victims, met them at the hospital, have worked on rape crisis hotlines, and have worked with offenders here in Vermont. And so I think that there's a whole host of things that we need to do. Some of these crimes, we have a batch of these crimes that are reported, and we still have a lot of these crimes that are committed that are not reported. And so I think there's a few things that we need to do, and I would like to do as Lieutenant Governor. I think it's bringing the folks together across the state who are working with victims of domestic violence and asking them, and victims of sexual assault, and asking them what resources they need, what supports we need to be giving them at the state level to make sure they can do their work. And a lot of these nonprofits that are working across the state are doing so with volunteers. They're doing so on shoestring budgets. And if we're really serious about victims of domestic violence and sexual assault being able to get support and the care that they need, help with legal action, help staying safe, we need to make sure that the service providers are well resourced across the state. So I think that that's one piece. The other piece that I think we really need to do is continue to invest in rehabilitation programs, and some of the things like the domestic abuse education project that I was a part of. I think one of the challenges that we face around domestic violence and sexual assault is that it's really about a fundamental belief system on the part of offenders, and we have a tendency to think of the violent piece of that crime as the only part that is really abusive. But there's a whole host of other things that go along with this. And so what we need to do is really work with offenders to help them understand the consequences of their actions and how to live in a community setting, and continue to hold them accountable for their actions going forward. And then I think we also have to do a lot to educate children, because a lot of those men that we were in those groups with had been victims or had seen domestic violence when they were children, and these sort of beliefs about how you function in a community or in a home and what power and control you have over your partner start very young. So I would like to help lead the state in making sure we're making investments in the classroom, early on for kids, early childhood education, child care centers to teach people about respect and nonviolence and those sort of things.
I think domestic violence is an issue that is far too common throughout Vermont and throughout the nation. And it's deplorable. When you think about myself, I've repeated, I have two young daughters, and I'm particularly sensitive to violence against women of any sort. And I think that they should be, anybody that has committed those crimes should be punished to the full extent of the law. And treatment is necessary, but first and foremost, I think that they should be prosecuted. Having said that as well, I've worked with the battered women's shelters over my years in the Senate, tried to increase funding for the shelters themselves and the capital program, and they do great work, the nonprofits and so forth. But we need to, as well as people, we need to respect and each other, and that includes women first and foremost. But I think the respect and civility is something that we all need to make sure that we're teaching our young, and as leaders, as sports or as athletes, as anybody that's in public life, we should continue to stress to our youth what's right and what's wrong, and treat each other with respect and civility.
I'd like to get a yes or no answer on this next question. Do you support the the F-35 proposal at the Burlington Airport?
Yes.
I do, yes, but I would like to see some further assurance to those homeowners and further vetting of the studies to make sure that housing values will not be negatively impacted by those.
Let me try again another yes or no question. Would you support a moratorium on any more large-scale wind projects in Vermont?
No, I think wind is a really important part of our clean energy future. I do want to make sure that communities have a voice in that process, and I think that there's ways that is already taking place. I think with the votes that communities have had, and all of these communities have approved these projects in their areas. I think that there are some things we could do to strengthen surrounding towns' voice in that process, making sure they have adequate representation before the Public Service Board. But I think the wind projects have to be taken on a case-by-case basis, and given the impact of climate change, it would be a mistake to offer an across-the-board moratorium on that.
All right.
Yes, I would. I think that we should.
You would support a
I would support a
moratorium?
moratorium. I think that it's. I would allow the ones that have been have applications and have been okay to move forward. But I think it's. I think we should take a look at the after effects. I think that it'll give us a little bit of time to see what effects it's had on our environment. It will also give us a chance to do a fiscal analysis on whether they perform or not. We need baseload power. We need. I'm fully supportive of renewables.
But all right. Let me interrupt you there. And let me just, I have one more question. And Lee, if you're listening up the line, I'd like to get both of our candidates to answer this question before we conclude. If in the unlikely, and we hope, God forbid, situation that you become governor, and because of the death of the current governor, whoever that may be, I want to ask you, if that governor is of the different political party than you, would you follow the example of Howard Dean when he took over when Dick Snelling died in 1991? Keep that governor's staff in place and follow through on their agenda, or would you follow your agenda? Let me start with you, Mr. Scott.
Yeah, I would take a page out of the Howard Dean playbook. I was very proud of him as Lieutenant Governor and then Governor at that point in time. I was expecting him to do something totally different, and I thought he handled himself incredibly well. He maintained order. He made sure that people felt secure, that he was there to lead, but he also respected the view of the current governor and allowed that to continue. So I would follow his example.
Okay, we're going to keep our broadcast here for just a moment, Artie, and get an answer from Cassandra Gekas on that question. How would you handle that?
This is the thing. This is one of the most important issues and choices I think voters have in the booth in November. I think it's critical that the Lieutenant Governor, if called to that service or that duty, will continue to carry forward the policies of the current governor, who, Governor Shumlin enjoys broad support among Vermonters, and his agenda has really been endorsed, including healthcare reform, what he's doing on renewable
But my
energy.
question is, if Randy Brock is elected governor and you're elected as lieutenant governor, and something happens to him, will you follow his agenda, or will you follow your own?
I think that to the extent that there are things in place that the legislature has approved, I would continue to move forward with those pieces, things that are already in motion. But as a leader, I'm going to have to follow what I feel is my value system, and I think that value system is shared by the majority of Vermonters. And so if called to the service of governor, I would continue to move forward with the things that I believe are in the best interest of Vermonters on any new projects that needed to be undertaken, or things that needed to move forward that had not already been in place up to that point.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for today. Thank you both for joining us very much.
Thanks for having me.
Lieutenant Governor Phil Scott and the Democratic Progressive Challenger Cassandra Gekas. That will wrap it up for us here at the Tunbridge World's Fair today, and you're listening to FM 96.1 WDEV Warren, broadcasting from the top of Sugarbush and AM 550 WDEV, Waterbury, Montpelier. We'll talk to you Monday.
today's broadcast of the Mark Townsend Show and the debate for Lieutenant Governor and Attorney General has been brought to us by Alton Gekas report and the question.